Hello, everyone. This is StrawberryShorty here with Interview with the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 1, What Can the Damned Really Say to the Damned? So, we're back. I actually thought we were getting this a little later this month, but then I suddenly saw a video about it on my YouTube homepage. Anyway, I'm still homeless. Season 2 came home before I did. That means that whatever video I put to this will probably not be great. In fact, it will be even worse than before because I have no Wi-Fi now. So whatever I do, I will have to do with the phone, and, well, I hope you will enjoy it anyway and leave a comment. So we kick things off with a recap. Louis and Claudia intended to kill Lestat off, but Louis couldn't bring himself to burn him, so they ditched him in a trunk somewhere like that won't come back to bite them. Oh, and when Daniel finally confronts Louis about all this, Louis gets all upset, and his assistant, Rashid, is revealed to be Armand, who Louis tells us is the love of his life. Getting back to the interview, Louis speaks of his and Claudia's travels. They were sleeping in the earth of what was apparently a war zone, and let me just tell you, I could never do that. Claudia pounces on and eats some random soldier. I know nothing about whatever war this is, but imagine being the only guy to survive a horrific battle, and then you just die like that. Sucks. Kind of literally. At least she makes sure Louis gets some, even if her throwing what I'm assuming was a heart is kind of gross. Louis also reveals that Claudia wanted to find more of their kind, someone she could relate to, and doesn't feel that Louis can fill that role. I can't say I blame her. Obvious differences between them aside, he pretty forcibly stopped her from making sure their tormentor was truly dead. Louis discusses dreams briefly. He had them, but Claudia wrote in her diary that she didn't. Armand interjects, and Daniel is having none of it. Daniel continues to be the best character. Louis informs us older vampires like Armand don't need blood as often as the young ones like him do. So back to the war, Claudia proves to be a good actress when she tries to get her and her brother through a checkpoint, but the slightest hint of trouble results in a massacre that we only see the aftermath of. She's winning the war for somebody. Louis admits he follows her despite not really wanting to, and tells her he thinks the blood they're living off of, the blood of people caught up in a war, is filling them with misery. I guess he's been feeding off of unhappy people from the start then. He tries to use this to make conversation with Claudia, but she is mad. She hasn't spoken a word to him since this episode started. He starts holding a conversation with himself, alternating between being him and her. It's a little concerning. I'm not entirely sure if he's trying to be funny or just cracking, but Claudia does finally speak, though only to bring up an air raid that is coming. The pair continue on their quest, but fail to find any vampires. They do find a skeleton, upon which Louis makes the astute observation that it's dead. He suggests they go home and reads Claudia's thoughts on the matter from her diary. She finds the very question offensive and views him as nothing but dead weight. She sticks with him, though, which would have made a little more sense if they'd kept her as a tiny child like in the book. But I guess given what she went through last season when she went off alone, maybe she figures she'd be safer with an older, stronger vampire. I still want to see that guy get violently killed at some point, by the way. Back in the present, Louis is hurt by what Claudia said about him, but grateful to Daniel for the memories he helped restore. They've helped him to understand her diary a little better. Daniel's a bit sarcastic, though, especially as the real Rashid appears to collect the dinner dishes. Seems he's rather overwhelmed by everything that happened last season. He calls Louis out on calling Armand his love, when Claudia wrote about how that was actually Lestat, and Armand doesn't seem all that fond of Daniel either. Returning to the war zone, Louis wanders off while Claudia loots some corpses, only to stumble upon the body of Lestat. His neck is still cut, but he honestly looks much cleaner than when we last saw him. He's apparently alive, too, but let's be real, this is probably one of those erratic dreams Louis mentioned having, or he's hallucinating. He keeps trying and failing to leave Lestat, who thinks they both miss each other. Lestat reveals Louis and Claudia have been on their search for 4 years. He asks Louis if Claudia was worth what he did, but denies Louis' claim that it was. Then a bird comes out of his throat. It was kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure what happened. Louis apologizes to Lestat, and Lestat makes it clear he will kill Louis. Louis thinks he would have done it already if he were alive, proving that Lestat is totally right about him being in denial. Lestat reveals he's just waiting until Louis is happy, and it's like, have you even met this man? He's chronically depressed at all times. Louis reveals that he's killed 7,000 people. Which, wow. But Lestat was the only one that felt like murder. This line kind of feels off to me. I mean, the very fact that Louis remembers the exact number of people he killed, coupled with his general view of killing, makes it seem like most of those deaths would have made him feel like a murderer. Meanwhile, I had to laugh at Claudia just strolling up behind Louis, smoking a cigarette and shoving her loot bag into his hands. So the pair make their way to Romania, where they witness a rather strange sight. Men digging up coffins and shooting the bones inside. Claudia finally speaks to Louis, wondering why they are doing this, and they note the bolted windows and doors in every village they've come across. The additional find of garlic and crucifixes strung up improves Claudia's mood as she sees it as proof of vampires. She finally starts talking to Louis and even smiling. They run into some patrolling soldiers who demand their papers, and Claudia insists they're looking for her mother. I'm not sure, but I think that photo is of Louis' sister on her wedding day. Anyway, the soldiers aren't happy about the improper papers, but some random woman helps them out. Let's hope she doesn't get killed for her trouble. She takes them to a shelter full of potential victims and talks about the various threats in the area. Bombs, wolves, soldiers, or maybe something worse. Claudia is sure she's talking about vampires, especially after seeing people wearing garlic around their necks. And Louis meets a chatty American man named Morgan, and also convinces Claudia to accept his idea that she should go and meet the other children, suggesting they might know everything there is to know about the area. Louis in the present suddenly becomes confused, as what I guess he's reading in Claudia's diary or remembering doesn't make sense. Amelia, the woman who helped him, wouldn't have made that comment about the bombs, wolves, soldiers attack in front of Claudia because she thought Claudia was a child. I don't see anyone looking at Claudia and thinking she's a child, but whatever. Louis insists that this was only said after Claudia left and that they must get every detail right, prompting Armand to suggest taking a break. Daniel returns to questioning Rashid, making sure to take a few digs at Armand in the process. He suspects something is being hidden, and Louis makes the excuse that Armand didn't want him to do the interview, and Armand makes it clear he still feels that way. Daniel tells Rashid how Armand is making sure he's close to it, though, which makes him all the more certain he's trying to hide something. I'm just over here feeling bad for Rashid, because this is probably just some dude trying to clear the dishes and not get caught up in his employer's drama. Daniel is annoyed that he's being pulled into this interview to learn vampires are real, yet being kept from the whole truth. Rashid is finally able to leave, and Armand excuses himself. He is probably still listening, though. Back at the shelter, the kids are having a Dahu Doris moment, singing a really creepy song about someone named Anna. Claudia wants to know who Anna is, and is directed to a nearby hole in the wall. Someone comments that the furthest one wins, and she wants to know what the prize is. I get like a weird moment where a kid says crow and touches Claudia's cheek. I think he's putting paint on her. Or like, now that I'm revisiting this, because I wrote this down as I watched the episode. Maybe, was that like a racial comment? I don't know. I'm very confused by this whole scene, so if anyone knows, let me know in the comments. But either way, she pushes him down and heads into the hole while all the kids watch. Inside, as they drink, Louis asks about the coffins getting shot up. It's ultimately dismissed as superstitions in a backwoods village. Morgan asks Amelia to marry him, and they share a laugh. Outside, Claudia is suddenly in a forest, and I swear she reenacts a scene from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. You know, the scene with the Patronus deer thingy? Anyway, she sees the men who left the shelter earlier getting their butts kicked by something. It starts drinking their blood, and Claudia is excited to see another vampire, but it's more like a zombie, however, and it ultimately knocks her aside and leaves. So far, all our encounters with other vampires haven't gone well. Still, like this guy better than the other one, though. Back inside, everyone is listening to the radio, and I hope these people don't die. Morgan, who I am increasingly suspecting might be into Louis, asks if he's a red, which I'm hoping is not an offensive term. As the conversation continues, it seems like it might refer to an opposing soldier. Honestly, I thought it was some kind of foreign term for gay. Louis, who seems kind of drunk, babbles nonsense. Is he faking it? It seems like vampires should be able to hold their liquor better than this. Morgan has figured out Louis' story about his wife and how he's looking for her is a lie because the photograph is at least 30 years old. Like, what, Louis can't be married to an older woman? Louis lucks out and that Morgan suspects he's an AWOL soldier and just suggests he go back and take whatever punishment, if so, because it'd be a better option. Louis is relieved. I still hope these people don't die. Louis goes off to dance and have fun with Amelia, and she tells us way more than we ever needed to know about Morgan. Claudia interrupts to say she fell out of a tree, and Louis takes her to another room to treat her. She excitedly tells them all about her encounter like she didn't almost get killed, and let's just hope that no one followed them because she is not being very quiet. Louis doesn't believe she saw a real vampire, and they end up arguing about Lestat. Claudia's apparently finally forgiven him for messing up her plan, but she can't get over him still carrying the man in his heart all this time. Louis changes the subject, asking her what the point of their search is. Is she looking for the Adam and Eve of the vampires? And let's hope not, because that will not end well for anybody. Claudia insists she just wants to meet one vampire who isn't a bastard. Seems a bit harsh toward Louis, and I don't think it's going to work out for her, but, there it is. Continuing his story, Louis awoke to chaos the following morning. He recalls looking over at Claudia and realizes now she was dreaming. Louis gets emotional as he realizes the girl was having a nightmare, and he gets increasingly emotional upon realizing Claudia in fact could dream, but ultimately turns down Daniel's offer of taking that break that Armand had suggested, as he wants to remember. At the shelter, it turns out that Amelia has received a neck wound. There are soldiers who are convinced she needs to be killed, while Morgan argues with them and pleads with Louis for help. Claudia just leaves, and though he hesitates, Louis ultimately follows, and Amelia is killed. And the scene is so drawn out the whole time, and I feel so bad for Morgan, and I'm super ticked off that Louis did nothing, even though, realistically, there's nothing he could have done without making the whole situation worse. I mean, if he interferes as a human, he's not going to be able to do anything, and if he ends up getting shot, it'll reveal what he is, and they'll feel all the more justified in killing Amelia. And if he intervenes as a vampire, it still won't help the situation unless he picks Amelia up and runs away with her. But Amelia didn't deserve that, especially since her injury came while she was out getting food for everyone. And yeah, it just sucks. Sorry for the awkward pause there. If you haven't realized, I'm doing this with a recording app and a video playing the episode, because I have no way of downloading it or putting the parts together, so yeah, doing my best. Louis and Claudia instead go out and wait until night and then mutilate some soldier to draw out the vampire. It's better work because they ruined that shelter by letting Amelia die. While they're trying to talk to the vampire creature, some crazy lady who also seems to be a vampire just straight up attacks Louis. And we learn that Claudia also sucks when it comes to shooting a dang gun. A brawl breaks out between all the vampires, and Claudia ends up ripping out the zombie vampire's eyes, causing it to howl in pain. The lady then forgets about Louis and hugs the vampire, claiming to be its mama, then berates Claudia for taking a child's eyes. I actually felt sorry for the poor thing, even though he's probably killed a lot of people. So the strange woman picks up a rock and puts the zombie vampire out of its misery, and then she breaks down. She justifies her actions by saying he wouldn't have been able to hunt. I'm not sure that's true or that his eyes couldn't be restored. The latter was possible in the books, but maybe she doesn't know that. Anyway, she walks off rather than trying to get revenge, and sensing that she wants them to follow her, they do. They reach what looks like a castle, and we get a title drop. Then there's the woman, and she's giving her blood to a man. I'm not sure if she's feeding a vampire or turning a human. I think it's the latter. Louis and Claudia share their 5-year search for vampires. They tell her that they think the blood overseas is bad and causing them trouble, and that it's better in America. It sounds a bit weird to me. Was this in the books? Anyway, the woman kills the guy who I guess she was trying to turn. I'm not sure why, but she compared him to burnt bread, so I guess he wasn't good enough. Maybe he was going to turn out like the other one. Maybe the idea is that she used her blood to try and make a vampire, but because the blood she'd been drinking was bad, it created the zombie-like one. The woman reveals how she's the only living vampire that she knows of, and accepts some of Claudia's blood when it's offered. She talks about going overseas with them back to America, getting stronger, and how they can share their stories. The woman seems to be speaking about how wonderful it will be, and seems quite happy, as does Claudia. And something tells me that this is not gonna go well. The woman gives her name as Daciana, which I'm now realizing is probably the Anna the kids were singing about. And after they share their own names, she tells them that they own nothing, and then she throws herself into the nearby fireplace. That was random as heck. I'm not really sure why she did that. Again, that is not something I recall hearing about happening in the books. I don't think I ever actually read the first book. I think I just saw the movie for that one and then read the books for the sequels. But anyway. In the present, Armand talks business while Louis gets ready for bed. Whoever thought we'd see Armand in his pajamas? And they're striped, too. Anyway, the room is huge, though the bed being in the middle of the room is just weird to me. And it seems like a normal bed, not a coffin. Maybe it sinks into the floor? Louis asks to see the pages of Claudia's diary they removed, and Armand seems a little nervous as he says they made an agreement. Louis doesn't know what else he's remembering wrong, while Armand is concerned his name is in some of those pages. Louis promises not to share them with Daniel and says he lost control of the interview. Armand thinks Daniel wants to tear Louis apart and build him back up as he sees fit, and claims that rather than it just being his job that he relishes in it, and suggests that Louis stop the interview altogether. Louis refuses, and though Armand agrees to have Rashid get the pages, it's clear he's not happy about any of this. He tells Louis that the old Daniel is still in there somewhere, and expresses a desire that they work together to get him to talk about what happened next. It's unclear to me why, like maybe they're just trying to be the ones in control, or maybe there's something they want to know. Also, they've apparently been together for 70 years, and we don't get to see if the bed does anything special. The next day, I presume, Louis and Armand walk into the interview holding hands, which is a power move, I guess. Daniel asks what's up, and they claim he's got their attention, on the record. He seems a bit suspicious, but accepts this. Armand tries to take control of Louis' story, but Daniel stops him. And naturally, Armand is again not thrilled. I'm not sure he's ever happy any more than Louis is. Anyway, Louis tells us that Claudia was broken by what she experienced, and that he decided to take her back to New Orleans. Wasn't that where all the stuff with Lestat happened? Anyway, on the way there, Louis has a meaningful talk with Claudia, insisting that they need to keep on living no matter how bad their lives are, and that he won't die as long as she is alive, and they'll eventually find more of their kind. And if she were the last vampire on Earth, it would be enough for him. And it's a sweet moment, but kinda undercut by the fact that he is still seeing Lestat in his hallucinations, I guess. And when he's saying, it's her and him, it over and over and over, it kind of feels more like he's just trying to, convince himself. But Claudia accepts this, and they walk hand in hand toward some building. I'm sure it's like a famous monument or something, but I have no idea what it is. And we end things with what I guess is a preview for the season, because that looks like a lot to happen in the next episode. Seems interesting, lots of unique looking characters. That's all I'm gonna say for anyone who prefers to not watch these things. So, yeah. What did you think of the season 2 premiere? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you next time.